Oh my gosh, come on. No, I'm still in Florida, period. I'm flying up at dawn on Sunday, period. I hope you weren't counting on me. So sorry for the bad communication on my part. Hi, David. You can go ahead and unmute yourself if you like until the rabbi starts. I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
Good, good. We're fine. Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
How do you do it? You always have a nice smile.
It's painted on some weeks.
Oh, that's it.
But yeah. No, I'm always happy to be at temple, so
Oh, you're at home. That's right.
yeah, well, I mean at services. You're right, I'm at home. But I'm always happy to be at services. How's that? Instead of saying at temple.
Means the same.
Yeah. Oh, somebody else is there. Let them in. I think it's Paul and Rita. Hi.
Hi.
Oh. Hi, Paul.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm okay.
Just okay?
Yeah, we watched a very interesting three-part story on Netflix.
Oh, what was it about?
It was about a young couple who was subject to a home invasion where the girl was kidnapped.
Oh my God.
Uh, and the kidnapped taken to another cabin someplace in the woods,
Oh,
and what happened was the police believed this was a case similar to that movie Gone Girl. They refused to believe that it was a real honest to goodness kidnapping,
so they didn't
and
do it.
they were trying to prosecute the guy. And it turned out it was an honest to goodness crime, really.
Wow.
Was Gone Girl with Ben Affleck?
Yeah, who said that?
Adele.
Yeah.
Else here.
Where are you? I don't see you.
Can you
So
see me now?
I'm gonna mute everybody, Rabbi, and
Well, it
then
was a real case,
Tell
and
me the name.
it turned out that the young couple sued the police department for $2.5 million.
wow.
Well, they went through hell. They really did.
Sure. Sounds like it. So that would put me in a bad too.
Go,
What-
go see it on. Go
Shalom.
see it on Netflix.
7 o'clock, and we're just between murders here.
Everybody
Thank
else.
you all for coming. I'm David Mark. I'll be your rabbi at least for the hour. We'd love to see you at the main building, 132 Southeast 11th Avenue in Pompano. Well, that's it. I'll just repeat everything I said. I can't expand my screen for some reason. Maybe I have too much stuff going. All right. Anyway, thank you all for being here. And I'm sort of webcasting from a different location because we're in the process. Well, I'll tell you later. I mean, everything's fine, but even so. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. The Torah portion for this Shabbat is shalach. It means send. That's what you call the singular imperative. Shalach, shilchi, shilchu, shalachna. It's amazing. I was afraid I would go to Israel and not be able to say anything because I had to, in my head, I had to figure out what the tense would be, what the number of people would be. So there I am on the first day to register for classes at Bar Ilan University, Ramat Gan, Israel. And I'm standing in line, and in my brain, I'm going wildly. I'm saying, how do I say to register myself, to register myself? So I figure, brilliant solution, lihitrashem, which is the infinitive reflexive singular verb. And that means to register oneself because you put in a tav. So I get to the top of the front of the line, and I'm in the registrar's office and say, Ken, efshar la'azor lach? Can they help you? And another conundrum about Hebrew is that you say lazor lach. You don't say lazor otcha. You don't say help you. You say help to you, which always reminds me of help is on the way. Help is always on the way if we let it. But I said to them, Ani rotze hitrashem, I thinking that it meant I want to register myself. They all said in English, well, we hope so. It turns out they were all Americans. If it was an American Ole, an American Jewish person who moved to Israel, they didn't give you a hard time. They always had to check up on your Hebrew, but they were friendly about it, so that's good. It was a good year. All right, we've got our Siddur right there. And we're going to start on page 13. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachi hashalom, Malachi elyon. Melech, Malachi amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachi hashalom, Malachi elyon, Bimelech, Malachi hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachi hashalom, Malachi elyon, Mi melech, Malachi hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos once again. It was, shall we say, a heck of a week. And I'm not going to go into details. That's not our area. But it's nice to see all of your faces. It gives me a sense of family. It gives me a sense of home. I'm particularly taken with our dear friend, Mr. Stanley Eisen, who appears to be in either San Francisco, New York City, or perhaps Albuquerque. Where are you, Stanley? It is New York? Okay. I was never any good at reading lips. All right, let's continue. And we are in the time of year where the sun actually descends when Shabbat is coming in. I know it's a whole thing about when Shabbat exactly begins. I was raised Orthodox, in case you never heard that before, which I'm sure you did. And the rabbi put us on summer schedule. He said, it doesn't matter when the sun rises and sets. We're going to follow the minhag, the custom of always starting services at 7 o'clock. And I think in my young, near adolescent mind, the seed was planted for the custom we find more particularly among Reform and Conservative and Reconstructionist Jews, which is you establish a time, you follow the time. So I've always been comfortable with that. Let's do the song at the bottom of page 13. We'll try it first in the English and afterwards in the Hebrew. The sun on the treetops no longer is seen. Come, let us welcome Shabbat, the true queen. Behold her descending, the holy, the blessed, and with her God's angels of peace and of rest. Come now, dear queen, with us abide. Come now, Shabbat our bride. Shalom Aleichem, angels of peace. Now we'll try it in the Hebrew. It's transliterated on the left-hand side, just above the bottom paragraph. Afama merosh hailanot nistalka, uvenetze likrat Shabbat hamalka. Hine hi yoredet akedosha brucha, ve'im malachim tzva shalom umnucha. Bohi bohi hamalka, bohi bohi hakala. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi HaShalom. Well, we were doing reflexive verbs earlier, and that very first line of the poem in the Hebrew, Hachama, the Chama comes from the root Chom, which means warmth, and that's another name for the sun. Our common name for the sun is Shemesh, which comes from the Babylonian god of the sun, a sort of a Apollo figure named Shamash. And now, of course, the Shamash, another meaning for that, is the little fellow who scuttles around the shul when everybody's done and collects the Sidurim and counts the money in the pushka and turns the lights off and will eventually turn them on. He's not what we sadly call a Shabbos goy. He's a Jew. But, and there's a story about that. Here, I'll tell you the story about that. This is where the little Jewish fellow makes Yorida. He emigrates from Europe to America, and the second when the morning that he wakes up, his first morning in America, his cousin or uncle or whomever it is says, "You better find yourself a job. You can't just live here for no money." It was at least a penny to rent the room by the week, and he goes out and he doesn't know what to do, but he sees a friend of his tells him that the shul on Attorney Street, the Attorney Street shul, is looking for a shamus. He says, a shamus? I could do what a shamus does. You collect, like I said before. He goes and he has an audience with the president of the Attorney Street shul. And the Attorney Street shul says, can you count? He says, yeah, I can count. You count the money from the tzedakah. Can you collect Sidurim? Yes, I can collect Sidurim. So you'll do that. He says, and finally, he says, you have to read and write the receipts for the shul. And the would-be shamus, his face falls and he says, I don't know what to tell you. He says, you can't read and write, says the president. And the little fellow says, well, the fact is I can neither read nor write. He says, I'm sorry, says the president. A man who cannot read or write can certainly never aspire to be the shamus of the Attorney Street shul. Have a nice day. So the little Jewish fellow doesn't know what to do. And he talks to another friend who says, why don't you become a pushcart peddler? So he does. And with one thing and another, he finds he has a very good business sense. And he sells cloth, and he sells buttons, and he sells ladies' necessities and whatnot. And then one day he makes so much money that he takes his bag of coins and bills to Yarmolovsky's bank. Now, you probably never heard of it, but Yarmolovsky's bank building still stands right at the foot of Orchard and Grand Streets. And he went in, and as was the custom in those days, Mr. Yarmolovsky, the owner, founder, and president of the bank, greets him at the door and says, Shalom, Reb Yid, come in here. You want to start an account. We're glad to have your business. And Mr. Yarmolovsky himself takes him into a small room and gives him papers. And he says, you'll do this, you'll do this, you'll do this. And the little man says, I don't know what to tell you. I can't read or write. And Mr. Yarmolovsky marvels at this. And he says, look at how far you became from your one push cart without knowing how to read and write. Now you have an army of push carts, and I understand you are branching into other areas of industry. This is my business to know. And he says, imagine, says Mr. Yarmolovsky, imagine if you had come and known how to read and write, how far you might have gotten. And the little fellow shrugs his shoulders and says, sure, I would be the shamus of the Attorney Street Shul. So anyway, it kind of creeps up on you. It's creeping humor. Let's move on to Yedid Nefesh, page 14. Soul made loving God, compassion's gentle source, take my disposition and shape it to your will. Like a darting deer, will I rush to you. Before your glorious presence, humbly will I bow. Let your sweet love delight me with its thrill, because no other dainty will my hunger still. How splendid is your light, illumining the world. My soul is weary, yearning for your love's delight. Please, good God, do heal her, reveal to her your face, the pleasure of your presence, bathe it in your grace. She will find strength and healing in your sight. Forever will she serve you, grateful with all her might. Die, 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 yada, die, 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 yada, die, 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 yada, die, 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 yada, die, 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 yada, die, 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 yada, die, 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 yada, die, yada, die, 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 yada, die, 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 die. Yada die 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 die. Yada die die die. Yada die 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 die. Yada die 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 die. Yada die 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 die. Die die. Page 15. Lechu neranina. Lechu neranina. Lechu nina ladonai. Lechu neranina. Lechu neranina. Lechu neranina ladonai. Naria, naria, litzuri shenu, ikadma fana bitoda. Naria, naria, litzuri shenu, nizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu na ladonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina ladonai. Okay, page 15, left-hand side. Responsively, let us sing to Adonai, let us rejoice in our Creator. Let us greet God with thanksgiving, singing psalms of praise. Together, Adonai is the foundation of all life, exalted beyond all that is worshipped. In God's hand rests the world he fashioned, sea and land, abyss and mountain peak, all are God's. Let us worship Adonai, exalt the Creator, our God. We are the flock guided by God. Help is ours even today, if only we would listen to the divine voice. Harden not your heart in the way of your ancestors, who tried and tested me in the wilderness, even though they had witnessed my miracles. 40 years of contending with that generation led me to say, they are wayward, they care not for my ways. In indignation, therefore, did I vow, never would they reach my land, the land of peace, the land of rest. 40 שנה כות בדור, ואומר, עם טועה לבבם, והם לא ידעו דרכי, אשר נשבעתי ויעפי, אם יבואון אל מנוחתי. Page 17. Adonai malach tagel haaretz, Yismechu im rabim, Ahanan varafel sivivav, Tzedek umishpat echon kiso. Now, the translation has this Adonai is sovereign business, but the literal translation from the Ivra, from the Hebrew, the Lord reigns, may the earth rejoice. Let all the various islands have a simcha. I never understood that. I don't know how little islands, big islands, medium-sized islands can have a simcha. Anan varafel sivivav, cloud and smoke are around him. Righteousness and judgment are the foundations of his throne. Very, very solemn and majestic imagery. Let's read silently on page 17. The last four lines. Uhavei Adonai sinu ra, shomer nafshot chasidav, miyad rishayim yatzilhem, or zaru alat tzadik, uli yisrael simcha, simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, behodu b'zecher kadisho. The next to the last line, or zaru alat tzadik, light is sown, S-O-W-N, for the righteous, and to the upright in heart, joy. Or zaru Allah tzadik, ul yishrelev simcha. Or zaru Allah tzadik, ul yishrelev simcha. Ay 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 ay. That is probably Israeli, religious Israeli. I don't know if a secularist could sing things like light is, well, light, yeah, they could do the light is sown for the righteous. No, that would be fine. That goes both ways. It's a Parav sort of line. Let's take a look at page 18. Mizmor shir l'Adonai shir chadash, ki neflahot asa, Hoshia lo yamino, uzroa kadisho. Sing to Adonai a new song, for God has worked wonders. God's might has been triumphant, revealing supreme power to all. Together, God has remembered his steadfast love and faithfulness to the house of Israel. The whole world has seen the triumph of our God. Let all on earth shout for joy and break into jubilant song. Sing praise to Adonai with the harp, with trumpets and horns make a joyful noise. Let the sea roar and all its creatures, the world and its many inhabitants. Let the rivers applaud in exultation. Let the mountains all echo earth's joyous song. Adonai is coming to rule the earth, to sustain the world with kindness, to judge its people with fairness. It's one of those halavai sort of psalms. I mean, I do believe in God's power. I believe in God's almighty ability to create worlds and also to involve God's self in every small aspect of human existence. But it would be nice if God is going to judge the earth, if he would show up pretty soon. Let's take a look at page 20. This is, as I've said before, the psalm we sing when we carry around the Torah. It's the loveliest thing. As you know, you've been there, the custom of touching your hand to the Torah, the prayer book to the Torah, that's very good because you're multiplying your holiness. The prayer book is holy. Your hand is holy because it's part of you. You use it to do mitzvot. And finally, the talit. We use the corner of the talit to touch the Torah, which for me, the talit functions as sort of religious antenna, a spiritual register, which receives the holiness from the Torah and transmits it up to here to here. So that's very important. Mizmor David, Havul Adonai, Nelim, Havul Adonai, Kavod Vaos, Havul Adonai, Kivod Shemo, Ishtachavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim, kol Adonai ba'koach, kol Adonai b'hadar, kol Adonai שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון, וירקידם כמו עגל, לבנון וסיריון, כמו בן רהימים. קול אדוני חוצב להבות אש, קול אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש, קול אדוני יחולל איילות, ויחשוף יערות, ובהיכלו כולו מרכבות. אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. Looking at the very, very bottom paragraph on page 20, I always wondered where this came from, and it occurs to me that in the Orthodox prayer books that I remember from my youth, that was in small print just above the Lecha Dodi. So it's kind of nice. Ana b'koach gedulat yamincha tatir tzerura. That is, we beg you with the great might and greatness of your right hand, you should break the chains of all who are bound. Well, let's take a look at page 21. We'll go traditional tonight. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabila. Keep and remember, both uttered as one, by our Creator without comparison. Adonai is one, and his name is one, reflected in glory, in fame, and in praise. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabila. Come, let us greet Shabbat, queen sublime, fountain of blessings in every clime, anointed and regal since earliest time. In thought she preceded creation 6 days. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabila. Page 22, please rise and face the doors in the rear of the sanctuary. Boi v'shalom hateret pala, gam b'simcha uv'tzala, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabila. Okay, please be seated. Page 23. Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. It is good to acclaim Adonai, to sing your praise, exalted God, together to affirm your love each morning and your faithfulness every night, to the music of the lute and the melody of the harp. Your works, Adonai, make me glad. I sing with joy of your creation. How vast your works, Adonai! Your designs are beyond our grasp. The thoughtless cannot comprehend. The foolish cannot fathom this. The wicked may flourish, springing up like grass, but their doom is sealed, for you are supreme forever. Your enemies, Adonai, your enemies shall perish. All the wicked shall crumble. But me you have greatly exalted. I am anointed with fragrant oil. I have seen the downfall of my foes. I have heard the despair of my attackers. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They shall grow tall like a cedar in Lebanon. Plant in the house of Adonai, they will thrive in the courts of our God. They shall bear fruit even in old age. They shall be ever fresh and fragrant, to proclaim Adonai is just, my rock in whom there is no flaw. And the last 4 lines in the Hebrew. Tzadik katamar yifrach ki erez balevanon yizke shetulim beveit Adonai b'chatzrut Eloheinu yafrichu. Od Yenuvun Biseva Dishenim Birananim Yehu Lehagid Ki Ashar Adonai Suri Velo Avlatab. And on 24, let's just toss in this particular psalm. It's a shorty, but it's kind of nice. Adonai malach keut lavesh, lavesh Adonai ositazar, avtikon tevel, baltimot. You have established the earth, it shall not be moved. And the last 4 lines, Mikolot maim rabim adirim mishpereyam, Adir bamarom Adonai, Edotecha nemnu miod, Leveitcha nava kodesh, Adonai, Beorech yamin. I wonder if there's a more modern tune for that. That was Chazanis that I was just doing for you. Not top drawer Chazanis, but Chazanis nonetheless. And out of Israel is always coming new tunes for these old words. Beautiful stuff. If you have access, and I'm not shilling for them or anything, you might want to go on YouTube and punch in Israeli prayer songs, things like that. Okay, let's put the prayer books aside and talk about the Torah portion, Shalach. Shalach means a couple of things. Number one, the book of Numbers is chugging along, and the Israelites are trudging through the wilderness. And it's not, see, this is where all the Midrashim, all the different legends kind of go askew, because we were building the sanctuary. Then we had the sanctuary. Now we're carrying the sanctuary. Okay, fine. But where exactly are the Israelites in their particular trudge? How close are they to Israel? How long before they get there? What will be the odds of their succeeding? Well, apparently they did, because we're having this conversation. And the Jews are still well established in the state of Israel. I remember this came up earlier this week when I was teaching a group, and I mentioned that back in the early days of the Zionist experiment, which is still going on, they say Zionism is easily defined as one Jew giving money to a second Jew to allow a third Jew to settle in the land of Israel. That's what the definition was in the 60s. I don't know if it still applies now. But the Jews of Eastern Europe were in terrible, terrible danger. Of course, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, all the Russias, he should, well, if there's a Hades and it's hot, I hope he has a front row seat. But even so, the Jews had to get out of Russia. The majority of Jews who came to America in those years, between 1888 and 1920. In 1920, Congress figured they had enough dark-skinned types, and they wanted to import some Scandinavians. They wanted people from Norway and Sweden. Instead, they were getting Jews and Italians. Go figure. All right. So anyway, what happens is that the Israelites want to check out the land, which to me makes perfect sense. Moses gives them a terribly hard time. Moses is not, well, he's going on, but he's getting older and older. Nothing wrong with that, considering the alternative. But he isn't that quick to grant their every wish. They got tired of the manna. He got them slav, samach lamed vav, which is quail. But now they want to send spies to spy out the land. Literally, not to spy. The Hebrew for that is latur. Tur. Sound familiar? He wants to send 12 young men, staunch and strong, to tour the land. They'll start in the south, they'll go up to the north, and so on. And so Moses concedes to their wishes. Of course, he checks it out with God. God says, let him go. And he chooses not just any common Israelite. No, indeed. He chooses Nasi Lechulam. That is, everyone was a prince of his tribe. If you remember farther back, probably, well, Naso talked about it. Yes, Naso just a little way ago. They mentioned the names of all the different princes of the tribes. The prince was not royalty. The prince was sort of an executive position to make sure that the trash got picked up and the little kiddies got to go to school and things like that. More of an administrator. There are some people who are wonderful administrators. It's not an area of my job that I appreciate. I'd rather teach than administer, but hey, somebody's got to do it. And we have some wonderful administrators among us, even tonight. So he chooses the 12 spies, Aminadav, Nachshon ben Aminadav, Vofsi ben Fufu, whatever it is. They all have these strange names. It's amazing that no Jewish parents named their children Nachshon, which, I mean, what if they name him Naphtali? Naphtali is not even that popular anymore. When I was in camp many years ago, any one of a chain of now defunct Orthodox camps, we had a head counselor named Naphtali. I don't remember his last name. They called him Nifty Nafty. Well, see, that's the risk that you run if your parents saddle you with a moniker like Naphtali. But nowadays, we just kind of stick to the tried and true. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, names like that. But in those days, woo, they went all out. Nachshon means snake. Nachash is a snake. But that is no different from the other animal names that mostly religious people will give to their children. Tzvi means deer, D-E-E-R. Zev, wolf. Sometimes you'll meet a kid named Zev, wolf. Well, Zev means wolf, and wolf means wolf. So you're wolf, which is, I think, the sound the wolf makes. And Hersh, Hersh. No, Hersh is a deer also. Tzvi Hersh. But Dov bear. I knew a kid named Dov bear when I was younger. Dov means bear, B-E-A-R, and bear means, well, you see where this is going. But all these fellows with all their fancy Dan names crossed the Jordan, which in those days at least was a river. Nowadays I hear it's a puddle of dust, which is very sad. It's just environment, don't you know? And they split up into pairs, and they fan out among the land, and they're there for 30 days. And they come back, 40 days, excuse me, they got the bargain rate. 40 days later, they return carrying a huge eshkol. Levi Eshkol was the president of Israel. No, he was the prime minister at the time of the 6-Day War. This man could not make up his mind. They said, you know, God in his wisdom could not have chosen a worse prime minister in those days. At the time of the 6-Day War, when, as I recall, Israel was really in great, great danger. They're always in danger, but that was something we were worried about because we were in high school, and high school boys and girls are very good at worrying, Jewish ones. Well, anyway, Levi Eshkol was supposedly such a very difficult, it was hard for him to decide. He used to go to this cafe. In those days, the only liquid that Israelis drank besides water and Coca-Cola was tea and coffee. So he went to this nice little cafe. They knew him, the patrons knew him, they left him alone. They didn't go over to his table while he was sipping his tea or coffee and say, you owe me some money from taxes. You know, it wasn't his responsibility. In a country the size of Israel, everybody knows everybody else. So one particular day, with the news looming, he sits down at his customary table, and the Meltzar, the waiter, the fellow with the towel on his arm, except I don't think the Israeli waiters have towels on their arms. Anybody been there recently? What's the towel quotidian? No, well, anyway. And the Meltzar says, Shor lazor lecha, Adon Rosh HaMemshala, Mr. Head of the State. I love that. Adon, Mr. or Master, Rosh, head of, Hamemshala, the state. Eshkol doesn't answer him. Waiter says, well, he's got a lot on his mind. Goes away, thinks, reads the paper, comes back. No. Adon Rosh Hamemshala, Tarotze Mashahu Lishtot, you want something to drink? And Eshkol says, Mayesh Lacha. He knows what they have. He knows it's a cafe. There are various liquids. In those days, Israelis did not drink hard liquor. Maybe on Shabbos, they would have a shot of schnapps. That's what my father did. That's the only time I ever saw the man drink hard liquor in his life. He was a very sober type. If you knew my father, you'd agree. Let him rest in peace. And finally, the waiter comes back and he says, Adon Rosh HaMemshala, Mashu Lishtot, Mr. Head of State, do you want something to drink? He says, Ma yesh lecha, what do you have? He says, Yesh lanu tea, we have tea. Yesh lanu kafe, we have coffee. And he sits and he thinks and he thinks and he thinks, and the waiter goes away once again and finally comes back. And Eshkol says, I have an idea. Bring me half tea and half coffee. And that was the legendary story about Levi Eshkol, because the man who couldn't make up his mind. Wasn't there a song, Minnie the Moocher, by Cab Calloway? She couldn't make up her mind. All right, so they send 12 spies. They branch out in 40 days. 40 days they come back. And 2 of them have an enormous stick, almost a log, poised on their shoulders. What's on the log? What's between the 2 men? Yes, very good. Who said that? Thank you, Paul. Well done. Purple or green?
Both.
Yes, very good. One of those famous piebald grapevines. It's so big. How big is it? It's so big. It's not just little tiny grapes. It's grapes like bowling balls, grapes like medicine balls. Okay, really big grapes. And those men have been immortalized because if you go to Israel, I don't know if they're still doing it though. This was back in my day. I'm so old. They had Carmel, which aside from being a winery and a wonderful place to have a little drinky poo at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is practically the cocktail hour anyway. But these 2 men are holding the bunch of grapes. It is the office of tourism in Israel. Those 2 men have a perpetual civil service job, forever carrying their bunch of grapes into eternity. But wait, there's more. They brought back a pomegranate. Have you ever had a pomegranate? Pomegranate is a fruit, but it's also it's a work project. You have to get the seeds out of the pomegranate. And I know you're thinking, Rabbi, I can do it. My mother could do it. My grandmother could do it. Let them all rest in peace. But I really think that. There was the time when I was dating Annabeth, and there was this little vegetarian Indian restaurant in Greenwich Village. Oh, Greenwich Village. It's all been gentrified. And when you came in, they gave you a little tiny glass of pomegranate juice. We're sitting there sipping it. It was absolutely delicious. And all I can think is, who's the poor schnook in the kitchen squeezing the pomegranate seeds into a cup? That is labor intensive. That is not something I'm interested in doing. Okay, so 1 enormous pomegranate, the size, no doubt, of a bowling ball. And you remember, you were a little bit hungry after the meal, after Bubby gave it to you. You said, Bubby, what's for dessert? Said, have a piece fruit. What I loved about those Eastern European Jews was they had no need for prepositions. Have piece fruit. That's all you needed to know. Not have a piece of fruit, darling, but rather have piece fruit. And I said that to my mother every single meal we shared together in the house. I said, Ma, what's for dessert? Fresh fruit. I said, don't you have a stale piece of cake? There's some days when a piece of cake will beat fresh fruit out of the box. All right, so they come back with their huge bunch of grapes, their pomegranate, and a fig. 1 fig. I'm sure the fig was some kind of World Series of figs. And what do they report after everybody's had a nosh on the grapes and the fig? You know, if you had one of those grapes now, it would last you for a couple of days. And then you could put it in the fridge in between. So 10 of the spies say it's a terrible land. Oh, no, it's beautiful. It's a gorgeous land. And this is its fruit. But the inhabitants of the land, they are giants. Their cities reach up to the sky. And the people themselves are Anakim. They are descended from the ancient race of giants who followed Adam and Eve. I don't mean literally followed Adam and Eve like stalkers. No, no, no. They were a race of giants that just happened to flourish in those days. They weren't nice giants. They were more along the lines of the giant who tries to eat Jack in Jack and the Beanstalk. Well, but warriors more powerful than we. Well, that's true. I've said this a number of times, but our ancestors are still in the Bronze Age. If you want a really serious weapon that holds an edge, you need iron. And the natives were in the Iron Age already. Iron, actually, see, I'm bouncing all over the chronology here because iron came to Israel with the Philistines, the Plishtim, who may have come from Crete. They were Viking-like people, and they brought the iron. So it's much later than this, but it makes a good story. The only two Jews who say, the Israelites who say, it's not a problem, all right, they're very tall, and the cities are kind of big, and we're just a little nomadic people with our sheep and goats and camels and whatnot. We don't even know if the camel was domesticated at this point. I do love camels. They have so much personality. And Beth collects camels, not the real ones, okay? Because if there was a real camel in here, you would know. Kalev ben Yefuneh and Yehoshua ben Nun. Joshua, the son of Nun, or as we like to say in high school, son of Nun. He was like spontaneously generated. But another favorite is Kalev ben Yefuneh. Caleb, the son of Yefuneh. What is Yefuneh? Yafin. Maybe he sat in the corner or something like that. These two boys, they are faithful to Mo, and they say, we will conquer it, the Ezrat Hashem, with the help of God. Hey, Ron, how you doing? Okay. God has commanded. And how do the Israelites react? They react to this news the same way they react to everything else that happens in the Torah. Do you think they would be optimistic? Do you think they would be looking forward to the future? Do you think they would say it's going to be very nice? We'll have them all here, and we'll have a very tall building called the Shalom Tower, the Migdal Shalom over there? No, they cry, they burst into tears. They're weeping bitter tears, and this is where they embrace the philosophy of a friend of mine, a very dear and close friend, who is a fatalist. What is a fatalist? A fatalist is always somebody who, like these Israelites, expects something bad to happen, because if you expect it and it happens, you're not surprised. You can get through it. If you expect a bad thing and a good thing happens, it's gravy. So it really works out best in the end. The people are crying. They want to go back to Egypt. And God says, no, you're not going back to Egypt. The Egyptians don't want you. And number two, you're not even going into the land for 40 years. You see, this is where we agree with Rashi. Rashi was Rav Shlomo ben Yitzchak, my all-time favorite biblical commentator. I first met him when I was in the 3rd grade. And the reason they teach Rav Shlomo ben Yitzchak, or as we call him by his initials, Rashi, is that he is able to express the most profound ideas in very simple Hebrew, just perfect for Hebrew school kids in a yeshiva. And he's been my friend for lo these many years. Okay, so I got to stop saying lo these many years. And he says, Ein mukdam u'mu'uchar b'Torah. There is no early or late in the Torah. That's good. If you study Torah and you're late, you say, well, there isn't any. No, it means that you can't say that just because it's listed as such in the Torah, for example, Israelites depart from Egypt, Israelites cross wilderness for 40 years, Israelites build sanctuary whilst, I don't like what my college kids use, whilst, wandering in the wilderness, build the sanctuary, and then after 40 years, cross over Jordan and conquer the land, or don't. It depends on what school of thought you subscribe to. The point is that these events might have happened in a different order. I'm not saying they conquered the land and then escaped from Egypt. No, that's foolish. But simply that all of these miracles and stories and events that come thundering at us in the Torah did not necessarily happen in that order. And Rashi, despite being a master commentator, did not make this stuff up. He found it in the Talmud, he found it in other books, and he wrote them all down. He was a great compiler and really very brilliant. Oh yes, one more fun fact about Rashi. He was a Frenchman. He was a French Jew. And in the midst of his commentary, if he wanted to explain something, he might translate into what they call Lashon Sorfati Atika, ancient French. So they found a number of years ago that when they wanted to assemble, and these were not Jewish scholars, these were Gentiles, but they were Francophones and Franco appreciators. They wanted to compile a dictionary of Old French. And they said, how can we possibly isolate all these words? They said, it's all in Rashi. So they opened up a book of Rashi with the French translation, and they were in business. Well, back to the Israelites in the wilderness. They are very sorry. They're sorry they doubted God. They're sorry they doubted Moses. They're sorry they doubted the 2 spies out of the 12 who said something favorable. They said, tomorrow, say these remorseful Jews, we will cross over Jordan and we will try God's power. We will conquer the land. Well, they do. They put on boots and saddles and all kinds of stuff, and they make sure they have something sharp and pointy, probably a stick. You got to be careful, don't poke your eye out. And they go into war against the inhabitants of Canaan. Who wins, Israelites or Canaanites? How many of you think it's the Israelites? Paul, you're ruining my colon response. I'm sorry. That was exactly right. The Canaanites win. The Israelites are driven back, helter-skelter, back over the Jordan. They lose a number of people. We don't know the number. And the rest of them are even more remorseful than before, because who was in the front? Who was in the forefront of the attacking Canaanites? The Amalekites. And you can never trust an Amalekite. Amalek, of course, is the tribe which attacked us in the rear guard when we were escaping from Egypt. And I've told this story many times. But my point is that the Amalekites are the prototype of every anti-Semite. They can't be anti-Semites because they were Semites too. Anti-Jews who have followed us throughout history. And that's how I always referred to them. And I'll never forget that years ago, my first full-time pulpit in Fayetteville, North Carolina, there were 500 churches and 1 shul. So I was the Jew. And well, we had other Jews too. But I stood in the pulpit and I had the rabbi emeritus behind me. He was a very tough man to get along with. He was short of stature, but he had opinions, and he himself had escaped the Holocaust narrowly after Kristallnacht. He and his wife, let her rest in peace, were lucky to get out, and they were torpedoed in the English Channel. He lost all of his books. They went down with the ship, but he survived, and from there he went to Santo Domingo. He was in the Dominican Republic. I don't think it was a republic yet, for the duration of the war, and afterwards he made it to America. And ironically, he took his first pulpit in Laconia, New Hampshire, and my second pulpit, full-time pulpit, was in New Hampshire. So in some way, I've been shadowing him my entire career, but we didn't quite ever get along. He kind of softened up towards the end, but that's another story. All right. He said to me, he took me aside. This was a man who had known the full fury of the anti-Semites, and you know and I know of whom I am speaking. And he said, David, Amalek is not a strange tribe. Amalek is not some foreign nation who attacked the Jews. Amalek is in here. And he pointed to his heart. And he was right, because all of us human beings have a Yetzer HaTov, a good inclination we should listen to, and a Yetzer Hara, an evil inclination, which sadly, many people listen more frequently to the evil inclination than the good. But that was the lesson he gave me about Amalek. Well, let's wrap this up. Then come the laws of the Yayin Nesech. That is literally wine which is poured out, and in this case, it's poured out for good. When we pour the wine for Kiddush, that's a good thing. When we pour the wine for Havdalah, that's a good thing as well, even though we're saying goodbye to Shabbat. So they give the laws for the meal offerings. That was probably some sort of flour, that flour, which they poured out in front of God. The wine, as I said before, and the oil. Olive oil in particular, not the petroleum oil, which is nations go to war over. No, we're not talking about that. This is olive oil. Olive oil was, I have to say it, aside from being Popeye's girlfriend, was a very precious commodity because you could use it for food, you could use it for a religious ritual, and also you could use it for medicine. It was probably one of the few medicines they had. They had virtually nothing in those days. They had quarantine. And finally, the mitzvah to consecrate a portion of the dough. When a religious Jewish girl or a woman bakes her challah on Friday afternoon, they always tear off a section of dough from the remainder of the challah. This is the challah. The little piece of dough is the challah. The rest of the loaf is that which remains after the challah has been removed. And that piece of challah has got to be burnt in the oven. Now, I have never witnessed this. My mother should rest in peace. The only thing she could bake was the famous Philadelphia fruitcake, which had apples in it. That was it for the fruit. And I said, Ma, what is that? That is the famous Philadelphia fruitcake. My mother never visited Philadelphia in her life. I don't know where she got the recipe, but anyway. But getting back to the challah, the point is that it is supposed to be burnt in the oven. I don't mean when you make a mistake, but you take that lump of dough and you burn it in the oven as a memorial of the Korban Challah, the Challah offering. We could talk about Challah some other time. This is the part I don't like, absolutely. A man violates Shabbat by gathering sticks, and he's put to death. I think the people stone him. Why? I'm sorry. You break Shabbos. And I grew up surrounded by prohibitions. I mean, there's a light switch over there, and you can bet that when I leave this room, I'm going to flip it off, electrically. But there are people who emphasize rather the sin than the mitzvah. And it's taken me all of my life to readjust my thinking, not to focus on the sins, except maybe Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, but to focus on the mitzvot. And of course, they end up by telling you about the tzitzit. Thank you so much. All right. Shabbat shalom to one and all. It's a nice little Shabbos portion. Okay, please rise on page 28. Baruch, bow towards where the ark ought to be in the east. Bow to the east. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach. Leolam voed. Amen. All right, please be seated. And the lower left on page 28, I read there was not an accident per se, but something happened at the International Space Station. The astronauts were everybody's fine, but the astronauts were trying to transfer, I think, from the space station to a satellite, or maybe they were picking up the satellite. It's an old satellite. The satellite shattered into bits, and pieces of satellite may be plummeting towards Earth. So don't leave the house. No, I'm kidding. No, but it really is. It's plummeting. This is a Shabbos of plummeting. It's very strange. You'll read about that. Let's do responsively at the bottom left of 28. Light and darkness, night and day, we marvel at the mystery of stars. Together, moon and sky, sand and sea, we marvel at the mystery of sun. Twilight, high noon, dusk and dawn, though we are mortal, we are creation's crown. Flesh and bone, steel and stone, we dwell in fragile temporary shelters. Grant steadfast love, compassion, grace, sustain us, God, our origin is dust. Majesty, mercy, love endure, we are but little lower than the angels. Resplendent skies, sunset, sunrise, the grandeur of creation lifts our lives. Evening darkness, morning dawn, renew our lives as you renew all time. Amen. That's very nice. Let's go right to the Shema on page 30. Cover the eyes, please. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Uncover the eyes. Baruch Shem Kivod, Malchuto, Leolam Vohed. And the English. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And these words which I command you this day, you shall take to heart. Teach them diligently to your children. Recite them at home and away, night and day. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, and as a reminder above your eyes. Inscribe them upon the doorposts of your homes and upon your gates. Continuing now with the Mi Chamocha, the bold print on 32. Mi Chamocha, Bo'elim Adonai, Mi Kamocha, Nedor Ba'kodesh, Norati Lot, Osef Ele, Malchutecha Rovanecha, Bokayam Lifnei Moshe, Say, Anu v'amru, Adonai imloch, Liolam voed, V'nemar, Kifada Adonai et Yaakov, Ugialo miad chazak ma'menu, Baruch, Ata Adonai, Goal Yisrael, Amen. On page 33, I'm going to read the names of those who nishtugadacht are cholim, and we wish them refuah shlema, complete and speedy recovery. And if there's someone you would like me to dedicate the refuah shlema to, please keep their name in mind. Paul Dobbs, refuah shlema, Sheila Bergman, refuah shlema, Jeffrey Stern, refuah shlema, Sonia and Herb Yefsky, refuah shlema, Elisa Pepper, refuah shlema, Laura Durant, refuah shlema, Vince and Patricia Massey, refuah shlema, Rachel Spearer, refuah shlema. Tomorrow morning, when I make this refuah shlema over the Torah, it's the Minhag Hamakom. It's our area custom to always make the Mishaberach after Shishi, after the 6th Aliyah. Nobody has ever explained that to me exactly. So maybe we can come up with a reason for that particular number. I mean, I know why, but I mean with the 6. Okay, let's read the English paragraph on 33. Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace, now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Over us, over all his people Israel, and over Jerusalem. We'll say Amen. Page 34. Vishamru B'nei Yisroel et HaShabbat Lasot et HaShabbat Lidorotam Berito Olam Vishamru B'nei Yisroel et HaShabbat Lasot et HaShabbat Lidorotam Berit Olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisroel, oti liolam, oti liolam, oti liolam. Vishamru b'nei Yisroel et HaShabbat Lasot et HaShabbat Lidorotam Berit Olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et HaShamayim v'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisroel et HaShabbat Lasot et HaShabbat Lidorotam Berit Olam. Uvayom Hashvi Shabbat Vainafash Shabbat Vainafash Shabbat Vainafash Vishamru B'nei Yisroel et HaShabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam beritolam. Half Kaddish, as always, the half Kaddish is placed where it is to signify a slight break, a minor break in the davening, because we're going from the Shamru to the Amidah. Please rise. Yitkadal, v'yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Amen. Yalmad yivrach irute, v'yamlich malchute, b'chaye chon uvyo, omechon, uvchaye, d'chol beit Yisroel, bagala, bagala, uvizman kariv, v'yimeru, amen. Yehesh me Rabba Mevorach, Leolam, Leol Meol Maya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vipoar, Vitromam, Vitnase, Yitadar, Yitale, Yitalal, Shemede Kudisha Brichu, Liela, in kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'alema b'meru. Amen. The Amidah, pages 35b to 38. When you're done, you may be seated. Good time for any personal prayers to the Almighty. All right, let's continue now with the full Kaddish on page 48. Now, I have to specify that the full Kaddish is not a mourner's Kaddish. It is, once again, simply a place marker to show you that you're nearly done with the Ma'ariv davening, with the evening service for Shabbat. Yitkadal v'yikadash Shemei Rabbah, Amen. If you're still doing the Amidah, please continue. Yalma divrach hirute v'yamliach machute b'chayechon v'mechon v'chayechol beit Yisroel b'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru amen yehesh me rabba mevorach v'olam v'ol mehol maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitboar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalol shmei kodesha brichu Leila min kol berchata v'shirata tushbagata v'nechamata damiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Titkabal tzloton uvauton d'cho Yisrael kadam avondi v'shmaya v'imru amen. Yehi shalom araba min shemaya v'chaim alein v'alko Yisrael v'imru amen. Use shalom imromav uyase shalom aleinu V'al kol Yisroel, v'imru, imru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisroel, ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisroel. V'imru amen. Yeah, I don't want to interrupt the davening, but I did want to thank our friend Sherry, who is being visited this evening by a friend, and also the most beautiful pity I've seen in a long time. Hi, how you doing? Sherry is the only person I know who decorates with animals. It's really quite a thing. Okay. All right, the Kiddush. There's your cup. Okay, charge your cup. And you'll find the Kiddush for Shabbat. See, I grew up with Kiddush. Nowadays they say Kiddush. What's Kiddush? I don't know. It sounds very wet. Sabri Marnan Rabbanan Rabbatai, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei pri hagafen. Amen. Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kiddushanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, V'Shabbat kadsho bi'ava uvratzon inchilanu, zikaron lemase v'reshit, ki hu yom techila, lemekrai kodesh, sechel lemase v'reshit, ki hu yom techila, lemekrai kodesh, sechel litziat mitzrayim, ki vanu v'charta, Yotanu kidashta mikol hoamim Shabbat kadshecha yava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai b'kadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen. L'chaim, l'shalom, of simchas. Have you ever seen, you see it in the Jewish ornaments catalog, where they have this, it's not a tub exactly, but it's a round vessel with several spigots, several little tunnels that the wine can go through. You pour the wine in the top, you have a series of cups around underneath the spigot, and the wine, of course, goes from the bottle into the tub, into the spigot, into the cup. And I always thought that is the most remarkable thing. That is, it's kind of like a merry-go-round for wine. You know, a little wine carousel. Okay, let's do this. We've got the Aleinu. Sadly, Rita's not with us this evening. She has a little koev barosh, little teeny tiny twinge. You know, one of the, I get those head pounders too. I really do. But anyway, page 51 is the Aleinu. Please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach, and we wish her a refuah shlema. Ladon hakol atet gedula liotze breshit shelo astanu higoye haratzot v'lo samanu mishbechot hadama shelo samchel kedukahem v'gor aleinu yichol hamonam. Anachnu korim mishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu nemar v'haya Adonai limelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu Yeh Adonai Echad, Ushemo Echad, Ushemo Echad. Oh, please remain standing. I'm going to be seated, but we know we all remain standing. I'm only doing this because I've got a camera there. And we're going to do the Mourner's Kaddish on page 52. And as we have been doing, and I wish the end were in sight, I'll just be very honest with you. It's bad enough with Hamas. I only hope to goodness they don't go after Hezbollah. This is not a good thing. The expression in the Middle East is the sword is only effective when it is in the sheath. And, well, you understand what I'm saying. The Mourner's Kaddish in memory of our brothers and sisters from Israel who lost their lives, with a strong, strong prayer for an end to the hostilities very soon. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, amen. V'yalma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayei chon uv'yimei chon, uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uv'zman kariv v'yimru, amen. Yehi shmei rabba mivorach li'olam ulmeil maya. Yitporach v'yishtabach, v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shemei dekudisha b'richu. Li'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran bi'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shalom rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimru amen. Please be seated. Page 54. I don't really have any announcements. You're all invited, of course, to come to shul tomorrow for Shabbos or Shabbat, whatever you pronounce it. We're glad to see you. And I'm pretty sure we'll be in the chapel, but I haven't heard any words, contradicting that. So I think we're okay. And following the service, of course, we have a nash because God forbid Jews should daven for 2.5 hours. They need something to revive them because we daven with a great deal of koiches, a great deal of strength. So you'll join us. And then afterwards, I have my rabbi's discussion group. And I'll tell you a little secret. Of course, if you tell it to more than 3 people, it's not a secret anymore. The monicum has changed a little bit at the class. I come in different books. We've had a good time with all the books. We're having a good time just schmoozing and talking about life. So if you like a good schmooze, I got people you can get together to schmooze with. Once again, in the chapel, Temple Shalom. And we want to wish you all a healthy and a happy Shabbat and a healthy and a happy world. And everything should be okay, foreign and domestically. So we'll do the Adon Olam. This is an old Jewish folk tune. You may recall it from the 60s. I don't know how to say it in Hebrew, but the English translation is Yellow Submarine. And it goes like this. Adon Olam, Hashem Allah, B'terem Kol, Yitzim Ivra, Li'et Nasa, B'chefzo Kol, Zay Melech, Shemo Nikra. We all live in a yellow submarine, a yellow submarine, yellow submarine. I must look that up. We all live in a yellow submarine, yellow submarine, yellow submarine. Captain, full speed ahead. V'acharei kichlot hakol, livado, yimloch nora, v'hu haya, v'hu hoveh, Thank you for indulging me. We'll do the last 3 stanzas to the traditional tune. Echad v'ein sheni, lehamshila, lehachbira, v'li reshit, v'li tachlit, v'lo haoz, v'hamisra, v'hu eli, v'chai goali, Vitzur Chavli, V'etzara, V'hu Niseum, Nosli, Minat Kosi, V'yom Krabiato, Afkid Ruchi, V'etishan, V'ahira, V'imruchi, Yeviati. Adonai li velo ira. All right, please rise for the closing benediction. Forgive my remaining seated. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Yo'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord turn his face unto you and grant you peace. Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat shalom. Free up the volume. Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat shalom, woo, Shabbat shalom. Are we unmuted? Yes, we are. Hello, Refuah Shlema, Paul, please give our lovingest regards to your wonderful wife and to yourself. Okay. Anybody got something to report? What's the dog's name?
Otis. And
Oh,
that's
the Otis.
that's
That's the
Otis.
Otis. I
And
only
that's
see body parts.
Sabrina. That's
Hi.
Sabrina. You should remember she came with
Hi,
her parents,
Sabrina.
with Walter's mother several times to the
Yes.
service.
Thank you so much. I know a poem about a
Thank
Sabrina.
you.
Yes, yes. Nice to see you. Welcome.
Nice to see you as well.
Okay. Oh, there he goes again. Yes, Otis, it's good to see you too. Okay. Very good.
Say hi.
Yes, always good to see you. That's a tail, boy, oh boy. Anybody else? Any animals? I don't have my animal.
Radar says good Shabbos.
Oh, he's my
Hi,
good and true.
Roseanne. Hi,
Yeah.
Roseanne.
Hi, Howard
Thank you,
Sherry.
Roseanne. Really.
Nice to
Yes.
see you two again, Adele and David.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
To see you, Sherry.
Everybody have a nice, happy, healthy Shabbos.
Amen, amen.
Wish you the same. Hi, Dinola.
Hi,
Have a
Sherry.
good week.
Yes, thanks to Dina for being our techie.
Oh.
Yes.
My pleasure.
This is also a good way to get looks inside your friends' apartments and houses. The reason I'm here is because, okay, we're packing, we're moving. We're not moving out of state. We're moving to Winmore, God willing. But it's not going to happen.
Where? Winmore, it's a over 55 community. He and wife and his wife are moving.
I think I've heard of it.
Yes. I don't know where they got the name. Okay, maybe it enables you to win more.
Hopefully.
Don't count on it.
Oh, thank you, Adele. Thank you so much. How are you guys doing?
And you be our neighbor. We live right next door to Winmore.
Okay, all right. That's great. Very nice. I look forward to it. Hello, Rachel. How are you, sweetie?
Judy. That's
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, good to see you. That looks very Marc Chagall, that outfit you have on. Yes.
With the Momo.
Anyone else? Arnold, how are you? Good to see you.
How you doing?
All right, thank God. Thank you for the text. I appreciate it.
Arnold.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Any help?
Okay.
He has no
All
pet.
right. Well, tomorrow's another day, and God willing, you should all have a happy and a healthy Shabbat.
You
And
too.
You too.
people, a lot of people know this. Neshama Yatera, we get an extra Shabbat soul. God replaces our weekday soul, S-O-U-L, with a Shabbat soul. That's why you have to eat twice as much, because you're feeding two souls. Okay. All right. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
No wonder I'm so hungry.
Bye-bye.
Paul,
Take
I
care.
hope Rita feels better.
Yes.
Oh, Rita, feel better.
Thank you.
Okay.
Night, everybody.
Yes,
Good night,
indeed.
everyone.